Okay, so I'm Kim Solez, and welcome to the first teaching session on this course on technology and the future of medicine. First slide's important because one of the questions on this practice test is what is the accessible future? And there's also a question on the midterm. So the accessible future is a future that is easy to understand. That's what that term means. And it's part of one of the features of this course. You know, you can take this course from any faculty, and so this is an accessible approach to the future. You can think of a more detailed approach to the future where you had to read 7 books to understand anything in the first sentence. So this is different from that. It is a future that hopefully people can understand from any faculty or any vantage point from the university student who might be in. There are 11 students who either are registered or plan to register in this course. From the looks of the room, there may be some others who are also interested. That's fine. Okay, so the quiz that you're taking, I'll give you about 10 minutes to complete that. The content and format of the first day quiz are similar to the midterm March 5th, which is the only exam in the course. Counts 20% of the course grade. You may wonder why there is an exam in the course. There didn't used to be, but that came about from student feedback, who told me that the Faculty of Science advisors felt that the course was too fluffy and not rigorous enough, that it didn't have any exams, and so we made changes on that basis. The practice quiz does not count toward your grade, allows me to figure out how much you know now and how much your knowledge increases during the time that you're in the course. And it helps us to structure future lectures so that they better serve the needs of the students. So the objectives of the lecture to outline the basic plan of the course, its expectations, due dates, evaluation criteria, feedback mechanisms, and new features. There must always be new features. If you think of a course about the future being static, that would not be a valid course about the future, right? So the future is constantly evolving, so the course has to constantly evolve. To begin to introduce basic concepts of the course, including the technological singularity, exponential change, existential risk, and the accessible future. Outline plans for future day, March 1st. So, March 1st is a Friday, and so there is no scheduled teaching time on a Friday. So we would only do something on March 1st if the students want to. Some terms the students have planned all sorts of social events, and we've done the final presentation in the midst of being entertained with food and drink, and guy who performs with balloon animals and bullwhip and all that kind of stuff. And other terms, the students don't want that. They have jobs and kids and all sorts of other detailed engagement in life that make it absolutely impossible for them to ever do anything related to this course except between 2 and 3:20 on Tuesday and Thursday. If that turns out to be the case, that's also fine. So we have a student group for the course. It is inactive because we haven't done anything with the student group for a while, but there's money in the bank. You may know that a student group has to have a bank account, so that money is just sitting there until we get a group of students who wants to do the kind of fun stuff that we do every now and then. But we don't have to do it this term. It's up to you. Future Day, if you don't know about Future Day, that's okay. It is like a future holiday, but the number of places in the world that Future Day is being celebrated seems to become less and less every year. And we're one of the few places in the world celebrating Future Day this March 1st. So I'm also outlining the expectations for the midterm exam March 5th. Now the schedule you have is a tentative schedule. I've had input from Jack Tazinski, from Rashida Modi, and from Gary Goldsand. And so those are the only times in there that are sort of approved. The others are highly flexible, not only the date on which the lectures occur, but the subject of the lecture and so on. So I expect to have a schedule for you within the next week to 10 days that all the lecturers have approved of. But many of them take the Christmas holidays very seriously, and it's hard to get in contact with them at this particular time. So yeah, so the midterm exam will be on March 5th. It will be on material through February 28th. There's a general midterm exam and an ethics-specific midterm exam. Gary Goldsand will grade the ethics-specific component. Last year, we had quantum biology special component of the midterm exam. But this year, all the quantum biology is being taught after the midterm. So this term, you will be tested on what you learn about ethics, but you won't be tested specifically on quantum biology. Your final presentation, your final paper, they should be on the same subject. And it will be unlike any presentation or paper you've done for any other course, because the themes of this course are different from any other course. So that final presentation and paper must relate to futuristic subjects like exponential change, machine replacement of human labor, existential risk, stuff like that you would not have addressed in any other course. A paper that's just about technology and medicine won't cut it. So it has to have this flavor of exponential change and what are we going to do when machines are more intelligent than individual humans in 2029, more intelligent than the whole human race in 2045. Now, as I say that, you may say, oh no, that can't be right. But anyway, those are the kinds of things that we're going to talk about in this course. The Edmonton Journal article about the course talks about it making you street smart for the future, and I think that's actually true. We talk about enough different scenarios that some of them will be the actual future. We don't know which ones, but some of them will be. So it kind of has survival value long term. You're brave to take this course though, because the short-term value is possibly zero. This is not required for anything that you're doing, and there's no other course like it in the world, so it's not like you're keeping up with somebody else by taking this. You're doing something that no one else in the world is doing. There are 3 other courses like this, but they're not university courses. They're taught by professional keynote speakers who make all their income by giving keynote speeches. And that's entirely different from my life. It's sort of interesting to think about that kind of life, though. They can make between $40,000 and $60,000 per talk. And the past really doesn't matter, right? They just need to give a good talk today. And then if they really satisfy that audience, they'll get more, invitations to speak in the future. That's not really what motivates me at all. So you're taking a kind of course that's of interest to those futuristic keynote speakers, but you're taking it as a part of a regular university program. So that's something different. So we also take the course on the road between terms, mixing technology presentations with poetry and music. And we've done this all over the world. We've done it in Charlotte, North Carolina. We've done it in London, UK. We've never done it within the university, but this term we are. So on January 25th in ECA 2190, we're having a 3-hour event from 4 to 7 p.m. on that Friday with food and drink. It's not part of this course, but it is an extension of the course. And so you may find that of interest. So the scientific subjects that we talk about there are regenerative medicine and AI safety. Both of them are important components of the future that a lot of people probably don't want to sit and listen to a lecture on, so this is a way to kind of teach them through entertaining them, something that they probably would sit still to hear about in a lecture. So the presentation is 30% of your grade, the paper is 40, the midterm exam 20, class participation is 10. Class participation is not a rigid grade. If you turn out to be a very shy group, then you'll find we have a provision for shy students taking the course and all that kind of thing. So then class participation rating would be entirely different from if you turn out to be a kind of group where everybody comes to class with a little prepared speech and you're just waiting for your opportunity to give your little speech. So students have varied all over the map, but an important sort of watershed for me. The first term that I taught the course, I thought, what am I doing? Because no matter who was lecturing, I would make comments afterwards, and my comments were always more interesting than any of the students. So I thought, what kind of a course is this? But the next term, there were students with better comments than mine. I thought, okay, finally. So yeah, so that doesn't have to happen every time, but sometimes it is really cool that the most interesting part of every teaching session is you guys reacting to whatever we've taught. That doesn't always happen, but sometimes. So the paper is due April 2nd. We deduct 5 points a day if your work is late, and if you haven't told me it's going to be late, and so on. If you have a reason why it's late, then that's something different. We're not rigid about format. You may have taken courses where you get hugely penalized by using the wrong reference format or something. I like surprises, so if you give me a paper that's different from any other paper I've ever encountered in the 16 terms that I taught this course, I think that's really cool. So I'm not going to insist that you follow a specific format. We do have example papers that I can give you of students who did really excellent papers in the past, but your paper does not have to be in a similar format to what those students did. I guess I always thought that we don't need this slide, but now I'm realizing that we do, because professors teaching in the university grade in various ways, And this is how I've been grading since 2011, so the past 8 years, and it isn't going to change. And even though on Reddit it says that I gave a B+ to a student who got a 90, that has never happened. So everything else that they say on Reddit is true. And it may be that she or he told their, significant other that that's what I had done, but it's not actually what I have done. So I'm quite rigid about this, except that we take clustering into account. Now suppose that you end up with a grade of 95.5. That sounds like an A, right? But suppose all the A pluses are very close to 95.5, and there are other A's down at the 93 level, right? Then a 95.5 could be an A+ because of clustering with the other A pluses. So we do that a lot. And the other thing, it seems odd, but it works. And the only way this will stop working is if there are no really talented students taking the course. So I normalize the scores on the midterm. So the top student gets a 99. So if you're the top student, you'll get a 99. May not be what your numerical score was, but I'll add to it until you're up to 99. And then I use a scale. Let's say that you got a 30, so you have the lowest grade. So I may feel that you didn't really fail, so we need to add like 40 points to you, and maybe the guy who got the top grade got a 94, so I'm adding 5 points to him, and so on. And it sounds like a really strange system that wouldn't work, but it does seem to work. Nobody has ever challenged me on it. There doesn't seem to be much of literature of how to normalize test scores like this. So nobody is pushing back at us doing what we do. So I guess what I'm saying is the midterm is relatively difficult, but you're likely to score well because other students will find it equally difficult. And so we end up raising those scores, sometimes by a very substantial amount. So that's how the midterm's graded. We also recognize trends. So if you really do badly on the midterm, but then you do a great final presentation and paper, you will do well on the course. And we'll all feel really happy that you got so much better during the course. So that's also a feature. Now, something happened this past term that we do not understand. I'll give you a theory about it, but honestly, we don't understand how this happened. So always before, until I got the student feedback on the SurveyMonkey form, we didn't know what the students felt. And last term, before I sent in the final grades, there was this spontaneous outpouring of positive feeling from all the students, including the student who got the lowest grade in the course. That person was really happy. And we don't really know the reason. It's possible Ishida's lectures had something to do with it, because she was like the only new element in the course. But it's also possible that there's some other obvious way to, explain this. I also don't know if it's being struck by lightning kind of thing, and it means it'll never occur again, or maybe it will. So, but it was just really, really fun to get from almost every single student this, expression of how much they enjoyed the course. And I realized that included the full spectrum of marks from the bottom to the top. So I don't know how that occurred, and it's something I never could have predicted. In this course, you will learn about the technological singularity. You'll learn your own particular flavor of that, what you believe. And if you're at a party and something, and as the evening wears on, people talk about things, this will be a thing you can talk about. And you'll know a lot about it. What you think, what other people think, so on. So it occurs as artificial intelligences surpass human beings as the smartest, capable life forms on Earth. And the technological development is then taken over by machines that can self-improve much faster than human beings can. It's a very important concept in the course. Now, you may believe that it's going to take thousands of years for that to occur, or some of you may think it's going to occur in 5 years or something. So you may not agree about when, but I think at least by the end of the course you will agree that this is going to happen. And it may be one of the key things for you to get out of this course is to have a full understanding of what the technological singularity is, what its implications are. The term comes from the lack of predictability of behavior around a black hole in physics, so it's kind of an analogy with that. And the fact that the future beyond that point cannot be accurately predicted. Now, in the past, if you didn't know anything about the singularity, that could be justified because people really didn't know much about it till February 2011. And in that month, two things happened. The singularity was on the cover of Time magazine, and the computer program Watson beat the top human contenders in the game show Jeopardy! And sort of everything changed from that point on. Now, Watson has, they've tried to do various things with Watson since then, and part of that is its use in healthcare and medicine. And actually, Ishida and I will talk about that in a later lecture. Where did the specifics of the course come from? Like, there are a lot of strange things about the course. The fact that we allow people who are not registered in the course into the room, the fact that it's a graduate course mainly taken by undergraduate students. There are a lot of odd things about the course. And we still have the recordings of the original focus groups from May of 2011, and the main characteristics of the course were really visioned at that time. And the two groups were remarkably different, as you might imagine. The graduate students didn't care about grades at all. They just wanted to talk about really big picture stuff. And the undergraduate focus group just wanted to know about grades. That was it, you know. But still, it was a very valuable discussion. You see Osmer Zayan down there. He's been one of our main teachers since the very beginning. So here he is again. Now the camcorder is automatically capturing still images. So it's not just shooting video. It has Sony Smile Shutter software that is looking for symmetrical smiles and cool hand gestures, all these kinds of things, and can instantly capture the still image that fulfills those criteria much faster than a human photographer can. So there'll be many really excellent pictures of you obtained in the course of your taking this course that are taken by machine, not by a human being, and you'll be amazed how good some of those pictures are. So the standard in the past has been a 10-minute introduction, 50-minute lecture, and then 20-minute discussion. We varied that a lot because in the beginning, we had all extroverted, high-performing students. Those were the only kind of students that ever took the course. And then with the popularity on Reddit and other things, some students who are not particularly high-performing, but just want to take cool, interesting courses started to take it. And so, and some shy students who are not so, assertive and outgoing, and these little prepared speeches all the time. So there are some terms when the students are extremely quiet. We have a fantastic lecture, and the students look so happy afterwards, but they have nothing to say, which never used to happen in the early years. So anyway, I'm prepared for anything, and whatever you guys would like is fine. So we may vary on this, particularly if you guys are really big into discussion, then we would make that portion of the teaching session longer, or if you're really not, we would make it shorter. The technology has gotten better and better. When you watch our videos from the first term, the air handling in the ceiling was louder than any of the people speaking, and the lighting and audio and everything was terrible, and gradually gotten better and better. So the quality of the videos is really quite high now. And we're probably finally in a room that's the right size for us. We used to be in these gigantic rooms, and now we're in a room that sort of fits us. So the course can be life-changing for you. Aisha Herrera, she gave talk, The Immortal Coil and Analysis of Existential Risks, created at the dawn of the Singularity. And she got a job offer from a very famous person in New York City in a tech company she didn't even know had existed before that, and sort of everything in her life has followed on that event. So I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen. So for a long time, I thought that Earl Waugh had given her that title, which you will recognize comes from Shakespeare, and I thought that he had helped her that way. We have this mentoring system, but it turns out she got the idea from her boyfriend, and the characteristics of the presentation that she gave, she'd sort of over-practiced it. This was so important to her that she practiced it everywhere in the house and in front of all the mirrors and so on. But the day came to give the actual thing, she felt she needed a little something extra. So there was some wine in the car, and she a swig of wine before the thing. And so anyway, that's the true story of how she came to give that lecture exactly as she gave it. So that the other part of history of this course is on our website. For many years it's been Jonathan White's first lecture from 2011, and it begins in a very abrupt way. You think, well, why would anybody begin like that? And well, that's because he didn't begin like that. He began with a recording of a song, The Future Soon, and I recognized that we could not publish a video that starts with a copyrighted song that we don't own the rights to. So I took it out and went from there. So he, however, in his TED Talk, so in this TED Talk, he sings that song himself. So he finally was able to have it part of his video by singing it himself. This slide is important because whether he teaches before the midterm or not, you are responsible for the content in the last 6 minutes or so of his TED Talk, as it says here. There are questions about it. And you're also responsible for this content from Rich Sutton. There was a meeting on AI safety in January 2015. Rich Sutton was the only person from the U of A there, and the only person holding the opinion that we should treat sentient machines as equals, include them in our circle of empathy, and give up the idea that human beings must be top dog in the world forever. So it was really an astounding meeting in the sense that everybody else were plotting how to enslave sentient AI, keep it in a box, keep it from being able to do anything important. And if you think about a machine smarter than you are that you're planning to enslave, you would realize that's probably not going to work in the long run, because if the machine is smarter than you are, it will be able to break free of whatever slavery you've created, and it won't be very happy about you at that point. So anyway, this is something we intend for you to learn in this course. It's an important sort of U of A part of AI safety. And from a kind of natural ethics point of view, I think it's the only solution here that makes sense, but maybe that's just me. So the previous lectures are on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, and if you miss a teaching session, you can probably watch it on YouTube. Another bit of student feedback, though, was that students don't like students who never show up here, that they feel that part of the experience of taking this course is the other students. And if you only show up occasionally, you're not much of an experience for the other students. So therefore, they thought that after 3 unexcused absences, that we should actually deduct points for students who just don't show up here. And so that wasn't my idea. That was the idea of the students, just to make things better. Okay, and so, yeah, problems of audience heterogeneity. So many of you from many different faculties, I think we've come up with a course that works pretty well no matter what your background is. Originally there was only one lecture with medical terms at all, and the Faculty of Science advisors didn't like that because it made it seem like it's not a rigorous enough course. So now there are 5 lectures that have medical terms, but you can easily understand them if you don't know any of those terms. So that's kind of where we ended up. This course has a strong youth orientation. We talked a lot about youth with people your own age teaching you, and you may become part of that in the sense that you might be somebody who decides that you want to keep an association with this course, and so we may end up asking you to teach in the course in the future. So other innovations new in 2019, you may think that this slide is just sort of similar every year. It's not. So first of all, the poetry readings. I'm quite active at those Nook Cafe poetry readings. I provide the lights and the videography and the sort of the infrastructure. And I also recite poetry, but the poetry is almost always about this course and the subjects of this course. So everybody else is talking about love and all those usual things. I'm talking about machine replacement of human labor and exponential change and stuff like that. Also, my wife and I listened to Bob Shelmick on CKUA, both in the evenings and the mornings. It's the same program, so there's a lot of poetry there. He and I have done things together in the past. The first few Leonard Cohen nights that I ran a long time ago. Many of you may not know who Leonard Cohen is, but Leonard Cohen is Canada's most famous poet, singer, songwriter. He's the person who wrote Hallelujah, which is in Shrek. So, anyway, okay. And there's the possibility of working for the course in the future, like Kushida and Gagan, and two other students who aren't here at the moment, like Heaney and Hatefee. But for 2019, there's something brand new. You may be aware that we've taken students to the mountains before. It sounds like something that would never, ever work, but it has worked pretty well. So it's not sort of selected students, but just like a random assortment of students. And my wife and I have taken them to the mountains, like for a weekend. Okay, so we're doing something that's kind of variation on that. We're going to Pittsburgh to interview my alter ego. So it's a guy who seems like he is similar, but absolutely a polar opposite of mine. And his name is David Crippen. And so we're planning to fly up on a Saturday, stay overnight, interview him on the Sunday morning, and then fly back. And so that it is a possible thing for you to be a part of. The way this came about, when talking about, convincing people that the future is going to be very, very different from what you think it's going to be. This turtles all the way down, which I sent you the link to where that comes from, was just too subtle for people. So animal analogies didn't seem to work, and I felt we needed this idea of human alter egos. So I found this guy who is absolutely my opposite. And I was telling the people at these meetings that I was running that the future they envision is going to be as different from the real future as David Crippen and Kim Solez are. So David Crippen started critical care medicine now, that email discussion group, the same year I started Nephrol, the renal medicine discussion group, but they're entirely different. His group has all sorts of cool characters, and they talk about all sorts of off-topic stuff, and we don't do any of that. We just follow the rules, we talk about medicine. He's won many military awards. He's got all sorts of medals for military service. He's a karate black belt. No civilian awards. I never served in the military, many civilian awards. He has his own rock band. He has numerous motorcycles and high-end cars and colorful history. Most of the key figures you might know the names of from the 60s and 70s. He knew personally, and the groupies and all that kind of thing, and really long hair and stuff. And he was at Woodstock. I have no band or motorcycle. I was kind of a boring young person. Didn't know about Woodstock until after it was over and so on. So we are also different that way. And in the meeting where I first presented this in Brazil in 2013, what proved that the analogy worked is that people began to believe that David Crippen did not exist, that I had just made him up, that he's a real person. And now he believes that he's going to die sometime soon, and so he wants, we're going to video him. It needs to happen soon. Now, we're not sure that that's really true, but really it doesn't matter. It's sort of up to him. So that's why we're going to fly there for a weekend. You may not think it makes sense for you to be part of this, but it really could. And it's not unlike other things that we have done, so if you're interested, let me know. Next time, we're going to talk about Marcus Hutter. And Marcus Hutter has an interesting relationship to the students in this course. He once Skyped with a group of students, not too much different from yourselves, and he was so disturbed watching the Skype recording that he asked me to delete all copies of it and to guarantee him he would never have to have a student interaction like that again. So completely different from most prominent people who have interacted with previous students in the course. But he really marches to the beat of a different drummer. If you get to know any AI researcher, they will tell you Marcus Hutter is an outsider. He's not one of us. And he seems to understand things about the future that the other people probably haven't figured out yet. Like, what is it going to sound like? He says it's going to sound like white noise, and he gives all the reasons that it's going to sound like white noise. And he comes to many other conclusions that are easy to read on the slides what those conclusions are, but the logic of how he got there is extremely difficult. How difficult? Jonathan Schaefer, the former dean of science, said that that's the toughest PowerPoint set of slides he's ever seen. I had no idea how the students can cope with it. So that's what we'll be talking about next time. And you don't have to worry too much about not understanding every slide, because I also don't understand every slide. And particularly the Tower of Babel slide. So what this says is a library containing all books, including misprinted books and so on, has zero information value. Marcus Hutter spent some time on the phone trying to explain that to me, and he just thought I was dumb as a rock, that I couldn't figure that out. But I guess it is because there's so much there that it's not searchable, and to just have a whole lot of random stuff that you can't search is indeed of no value. So I think that's the idea behind this Tower of Babel. But that won't be the only slide that you have a hard time understanding. I'm still proud of bringing him to you in this PowerPoint with audio that I'll send you the link to. The only thing about it is that both the colors of his slides and the tone of his voice are a little bit depressing. So hopefully I provide, so when I reformatted his slides, giving them brighter colors and stuff, and I think I'm a bit more animated than he is, although I don't understand as much about the future as he does. So that's what you're getting next time. Okay, dissemination of ideas. Actually, this has gone up. We're now over 5,000 views per video, but we're still way under. Like, how many people should we be reaching with the ideas of this course? Maybe everybody who owns a smartphone, so that'd be more than 3 billion people, right? So we're only reaching 5,000, and we should be reaching 3 billion, so we have a long way to go. And I will eventually take the Big Bang Theory off this. You come to my office, you see a lot of instances of the Big Bang Theory and Sheldon. We actually got 2 cardboard Sheldons and stuff. But since the TV program's ending, it probably shouldn't have so much prominence in future years. Challenge of friendly AI is probably exaggerated. Challenge of unfriendly AI. The scary thing is not that sentient AI will be unfriendly, but that it just will completely ignore us. That would be even worse. I think you imagine it's saying mean things to us, but it's still talking to us. That's better than if, like, it just thinks we don't matter. So Hutter, for the first time, conjures up really a picture of what the singularity will be like, and in the lecture next time, it gets very close to a very dark point that you probably hope no lecturer ever gets to again, where you think, oh, there is no hope. And then the second half of the lecture, we talk about future day and all the cool stuff we could do for future day. So it will bring you back out of that. So also this idea, I don't know if you share this idea, that being youthful can be dysphoric in itself, because you, to some extent, lack agency. Ishita and I will talk more about having agency, being able to do things in the world. But if you think of a world run by sentient AI that is completely ignoring humans, that we would certainly lack agency in that sort of place. Okay. So 7 years ago, the structure of entities in this area became much simpler, because Singularity University went from nonprofit to beneficial for-profit, which you may know is a kind of California thing. It's where, yeah, you're into making money, but you're also trying to change the world at the same time. So they bought up most other things except us, so we're still independent of them, but most other things with the word singularity in them, they own, like Singularity Summit and so on. And it's also interesting when you think about, like, every single one of you is probably carrying around something in your pocket that Foxconn workers made, right? Because it's not just Apple, but Samsung, and most of the best-selling tech products are made in Foxconn factories. And so Foxconn, 8 years ago, said they were going to replace 1 million workers with 1 million robots, and it hasn't quite happened, but they replaced about half of their workforce with robots. So that connects you directly to machine replacement of human labor, that you have in your pocket something made in this factory, and it's very likely that one of those robots made an important part of whatever you're carrying in your pocket. What about the future and medicine? So you can imagine a future where we could eliminate all diseases that we know of today, and would still be a terrible world where there's all sorts of bioterrorist generated diseases where only the bad guys have the antidotes and so on. That would be a world worse than we have today. But one of the reasons to take this course is that we really have a kind of choice in the future. We are not just passive victims of the future. We can help shape the future in a positive way. So that then gets to the more utopian medical future, which is the medicine writ large idea that I've written about, which is where medicine, what will it have to do if we get rid of all current diseases. Well, every single one of you would be in favor of sort of unending human enhancement, not only physical, but moral, spiritual. There'd be no end of how much better you would like to be and how much better you would like society to be. And so that's what medicine will do when it no longer has to treat diseases, because they are all gone. That idea is called medicine writ large. So 2045, when machines are supposed to be smarter than the whole human race, is only 27 years from now. Many of you will still be working then. What will medical careers be like then? And so you can think of the relationship between medicine and social work. You probably think medicine has a status up here and social work very low, you know. But when you think about it, this thing that I've talked about of medicine writ large, that really is where social work is like the premier thing we can do. Figuring out how individuals can be better and in a better life situation, and how all of society can be improved. I don't know how many of you are 27 or know somebody who's 27. So this is what Rudolf Virchow wrote when he was 27. It's the curse of humanity that it learns to tolerate even the most horrible situations by habituation. Physicians are the natural attorneys of the poor, and social problems should be largely solved by them. Now, most physicians that you know don't think that this is a thing, right? I mean, that's not why they went into medicine and so on. And if this really happens, then we probably need a different kind of person. It may be the kind of person you are to be practicing medicine in the future, where we are being the natural attorneys of the poor. Because if you make society better, if you reduce poverty so that everybody has better lives, then they are more healthy. And that's what he was writing about. Now you may wonder, what was I doing at the age of 27? That's also interesting. At the age of 27, I was an intern in pathology at Johns Hopkins, and in January of 1973, I was on my cytology rotation, and I decided Oberlin College had this winter term program where undergraduates from Oberlin would go and learn cool stuff from Oberlin alumni. I thought, why can't I just do that during January when I'm taking my cytology rotation? So that's what I did, and I've been kind of constantly associated with young people since then. So it sort of began then. Okay, and what did I do in 2010? Became the only full-time university faculty member taking the Singularity University executive course. Most people who take that are from government or industry or entrepreneurs. And you can also see I'm a tad older than the rest of those people. But it was really a very good thing and kind of life-changing for me to take that course. And this course came directly from that course. So before I started this course, I went to the Singularity University reunion that year and talked about the idea of teaching a course in the Faculty of Medicine about technology and the future of medicine. So when this course began, I'd been arguing for new cross-disciplinary structures in universities to better prepare us for the future. I was talking about that as if I expected somebody else to do it. I thought, well, I'm a full-time faculty member at a university, maybe I should do it. So that's how the course began. So, yeah. So that utopian outcome, we call that a post-scarcity world. Let's just talk about that for a moment. I don't know if you can remember what you thought when you woke up this morning, but probably in many mornings, you wake up and you think about all the things you want to have, you can never have, all the things you want to do, you can never do, and that's just your feat, right? So in this world, that wouldn't be the case. That virtual reality is as good as real, can be shared with friends. Any experience you want to have, you can have. The price of valuable goods comes down to approximately zero. And there's like guaranteed income for everybody and so on. So you probably don't have a plan for what to think about when you wake up in the morning. If you've already solved those things, and anything you want to have, you can have it. Anything you want to do, you can do. What are you going to do then? What is the meaning of life then? So it's interesting to think about that. So I wanted you to be aware that addressing aging is not just stopping aging, but potentially reversing it. And that's a really interesting concept. You may not have thought about that before. So you'll see this curve a lot. This is the curve of price performance of computing, but there are many other things that follow the same curve. And so 2029, when machines are as smart as individual humans here, 2045. Are we sure of those dates? No. But it could be off either way. So it could occur sooner. Longevity is going to increase for sure. So everyone in this room will see what happens. You may not think so, but you will. You'll all live to 2045. You'll know. So Moore's law is a little bit muted in medicine. That previous curve is called Moore's law. In part because of the security concerns and other things, so that medicine tends to be behind other areas of science. Doesn't have the same financial reward system. Security trumps information sharing, so on. But still, it is similar overall to other areas. As you know, my day job is using a microscope to look at kidney biopsy slides. And I got this idea of the macroscope, something where you could look at the really big picture a long time ago. I wrote about it in 2004. And IBM discovered the idea of the macroscope in 2017, so I like it now. So there are these two new courses, but so the one at Bart's and the London School of Medicine and Dentistry basically just takes the teaching at Singularity University and transports it there. And then this is one of the keynote speakers, Bertolin Metzko, talking at Semmelweis University. So we took a picture, actually in the last few weeks, he took a picture of his crew, so we took a picture of our crew. And so. All right, so I welcome your suggestions on how to capture the imagination of the public to start everyone thinking about these matters. And that is the end of the lecture, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you have specifically about the lecture, about the course, about anything. Yes?
About the project, about when do we have to start work on that?
You can start at any time, and it can be your job for the rest of your life if you want. That sort of happens to some people. They get turned on by something here, and they just keep on keeping on forever. So you have to tell me what it is by March 12th. Yeah, and you have to turn in your paper April 2nd. Now, the students sometimes wish for different things in terms of the final presentation. Now, let's say there are 12 to 14 of you. So what I've currently structured there is 3 days where we go from 2 to 4. So rather than going from 2 to 3:20, we would go from 2 to 4. And so we can do approximately 4 presentations per day, so each one taking a half hour. And so we could do 12 in a 3-day period. Now, sometimes the students haven't wanted to do that. They have wanted to have like one of those days off, and then more of the presentations all on the same day. And if we get beyond the 2-hour period, then we really have to combine it with something social. Otherwise, it's a violation of everybody's human rights to spend that much time doing this kind of thing. So it's sort of up to you, but there are a lot of different models. The idea is, let's say if there are 14 of you and you all want to present on the same day, that's not good from your point of view, because it means I get really tired at the end. so you know, I mean, be completely worn down by the time that we get to your talk. So it's one thing to take into consideration. But of the various things that I've suggested here, you know, you could come up with something entirely different that would also be fun. We picked colors for the high-level bridge once, so we all celebrated that the high-level bridge was in our colors. The thing is, that's too easy, that there are very few entities wanting to assign their colors to the high-level bridge, so many nights you know, high-level bridges sort of arbitrarily colored because nobody asked for anything. So anyway, it's not quite as cool as it seems, because also most people looking at it don't. Although there is a sign, so there's a sign indicating what the evening's colors mean and who that is and stuff like that. So that's something we have done. I can think of a lot of other things. Ishida, Gagan, do you want to say anything about the course?
No.
No? Okay. Ishida, do you want?
Not really, but you know, it's a great course and welcome.
Okay, other questions? So, I look forward to hearing back from you. So, you know, one of the things about the shy student, right, is that in theory you could ask me questions by text or email. So that's one of the provisions for the shy student. Now you may wonder whether unshy students have ever made use of these. So there was a very clever student once in the past who realized that this idea of not giving your final presentation live, but having a videographer shoot a video of you doing it, and then you present that to the class and so on, could work really well if you're kind of like, you know, budding documentary person. So he picked the most unappealing subject you can think of, the future of war, and he went to a children's playground, and he's talking about the future of war with all these little kids playing on the playground. It was a really windy day, and he didn't use any wind protection for the microphone, so you also get these gusts of wind just while he's saying stuff. It's just the coolest video ever to watch, and it fulfills the criteria. He wasn't really a shy student, but rather than giving his final presentation live, he made this, movie first, and then, presented that to us. So that's also possible if any of you are interested in that. So we like to be constantly surprising people. It's not just I like you to surprise me, but I like to keep you on your toes, and I also surprising you with things. And so one of the things that means is that the schedule that you received for the lectures will change, and some of those changes will be better, more interesting than the plan that you actually have in front of you. So the videos, if you're like in the witness protection program, I don't see any of you who really look like you obviously are witness protection program people, but if for some reason you don't want to be in videos, you can let me know that. That is also possible. We can edit you out, and so the world will think you were never here. That is also possible. You may wonder about the ownership of the videos. That's also interesting, that the Faculty of Medicine decided that they didn't need to own the content of this course. So I have a separate company called Just Machines that owns the content of the course. But thus far, there's no real way to make money on that. But anyway, we own it. But so that's kind of the interesting thing then. And I think the reason for that was, at the time, I was so far ahead of the thinking of the people running the Faculty of Medicine that they just thought that, the idea that they would want to own the course just didn't seem terribly appealing. And I said that I wanted to own the course rather than them, so I sort of do. So that's how that worked out. The agreement is the university must have access, so I can't take all the videos from the course and create a circumstance where the university wouldn't have access. Yes?
Just a quick question. Is the website actually up?
No, the Singularity Course.org site, we're working on it, yeah. But no, it isn't actually working at the moment, but I'm confident that it will. So, yeah. The person who knows it best who knows the mechanics of that best. She's getting married in India January 17th, which is soon. So I don't want to kind of, it isn't really her fault. It's just if she was here, that site would be up and working now, and it will be up and working soon. It just isn't working. But I'm happy to tell you anything that you would be looking for there. And after all, if the site was up, it would have a lecture schedule that is as imprecise as what I already gave you, because most of the people who are going to lecture I haven't actually heard from yet, and I don't know whether they can lecture on the listed dates. So I would argue you don't need a working website today. You need it in like 10 days, 2 weeks, and you will have it then. So any other questions? Yeah.
In your email, there was a PDF of the text, so I was just wondering how that's going to be incorporated into the lecture.
The PDF, so do you mean the medicine writ large?
I think so. It was like 150 page.
Oh, yes, the book, yeah. So the book, it's sort of cool that we've been using the same book, this State of the Future 2017. You would think, well, why aren't we using the State of the Future 2019? Well, they haven't produced that yet. So we're using the latest version. This is the Millennium Project textbook. And it happens that in 2017, they concentrated on Pakistan as the country of greatest interest. But there are many scenarios there, like if you want to think about what the future could really be like, they have lots of graphs of like things that are likely to happen, wild card things that if they happen will change everything, and it's just a good book for you to read selectively in, depending upon what your interests are. And you may wish to use it. You now have a free copy. And yeah, I don't really feel guilty about it. I did pay them something, but then it seems like in return for what I paid for using the book in the course, I'll be able to provide free copies to students until the end of time, which is coming back amazing. So, you know, that's the deal. So it doesn't have to be a part of what you're learning from in this course, but it could be. It's a pretty good reference. And then the other thing that may inspire you is that you can help write that. So I mean, it's a kind of communally written thing, and there's a way that you can become one of the authors in the next version. So you'll be listed within the book. And, I may choose Nepal or some interesting question, country like that the next time. I don't know how they choose which country. There are many chapters, so whatever's your main area of interest, you'd be able to find something about it. I mean, they have the future of arts, the future of business, the future of medicine, everything's there. There's something for everybody in that book. This is something funny though. The long video where we talk about the book, that was Halloween, and I, dressed up for Halloween, but none of the students did. So anyway, it's just what happened. So you can see it in that video. So I'm in a NASA spacesuit. Questions? Yes.
So for the presentation, it's based on topic you teach in lecture, right? And we're elaborating further?
No, it can be based on something that we don't teach in lecture, as long as it has to do with the main themes of the course. So, it has to be related to Moore's law, exponential change, those sort of general concepts. But they apply to every field of human endeavor. So you can apply that to something that nobody's ever applied it to before. Like the guy who wrote about the future war. I don't recommend that as a subject for any of you, but you can think of something that's sort of, you know, counterintuitive that might actually work fairly well for you because of the special interest that you have. So that would be fine. And there's lots of opportunity. You can run things past me. Also, Ashita and Gagan are really easy to approach, and you can ask them for advice, and you can take, you can ask for mentoring help from anybody who's ever taught in this course, which, you know, a large number of people in that category. You don't have to have a mentor. The mentor has no terribly specific role. If you're a very confident person, then you know the mentor is just somebody to kind of run things by. But if you're really at sea and unsure of how to confine your topic to something manageable and how to structure it and so on, then this mentoring influence could be quite helpful to you. So, any other questions? So, on David Crippen's behalf, I would ask you to think about Pittsburgh, you know, and let me know if you're interested. Okay, so we still got 5 minutes, if any of you.
Do you have to hand in this question?
Yes.
Yeah, I need to finish it up.
You do. You don't have to finish it up. I mean, you can leave things blank that you really don't know the answer to, and that makes me feel good because it makes me feel like there's a lot I can teach you. So. Yeah, so we should, yeah, either me or Ashita or Megan.
I know he's on this one, right? We'll just also.
Oh, no.
This is something
I think I did as well.
So there was one student that I was supposed to interview. You, okay, good.
Actually, I have 12.5, everything, well, the topics in that.
You're really good.
No problem. Jam again.